Just recently today, I've heard from two other victims that, so it's just a lot.
Of late today, I've heard from two different casualties so it's simply a ton to discuss that accomplished exactly the same thing that I encountered. It worked out that the people he was defending were indicated survivors of TD Jake, not exactly honorable side TD Jake was hanging out at. A rapper and twerking party. What that Puff Daddy helped, he's sitting not too far off. Gracious TD snakes the disclosure of a public evangelist going to those social affairs, frightened even somebody who had gone. Oh, there have been bits of hearsay about Diddy and TJ, bits of gossip encompassing DD and J. How could a strict man such as himself be at a party, which ain't only sin that is going, not just his guardian feels as such. However, there are different insiders in media outlets who let us know he's far more regrettable than he looks. As you can see, they're up in another side of the equator than customary too. They're extremely protected. They can do what they need. They got individuals on TD. Jakes has been neutralizing the commonplace progression of individuals in his field. The beyond couple of weeks since the notable diocesan has been engaged with some genuinely unforeseen news. His media appearances have now taken a much more terrible turn, with reports of his capture going with his name in the press entirely. Jake is no more unusual to the spotlight, essentially not contrasted with most ministers his congregation has developed throughout the long term, and he has been near a few effects. Tive media outlet characters, which has won him a practically indestructible standing in the public arena. You realize what follows that sort of accomplishment. VIP evidently the man is notable for something beyond his lessons. As per going press reports, he may not actually rigorously complete with his own lessons. There are fruitful scholars on the planet, and afterward, there are others like cleric TD Jakes who seem to have found a method for overcoming any barrier between scriptural lessons and me. Dia outlets, particularly the hip-hop culture, as well as having associations with various notable individuals in the African American population, and past the man's impact additionally reaches out to different nations. Yet, like numerous strict pioneers, Jake has been under consistent fire for his connections to various rich individuals that the overall population sees as questionable. Yet, up until this point, the minister had consistently excused those allegations wild, since he didn't seem to care a lot about those he believed were against him. We're learning nowadays that Jake may not be the ideal holy person than many have trusted him to be throughout the long term. You see the issue with becoming ensnared in a large number of debates in a general public where titles decide the day is that ultimately those issues start to cloud your contribution in anything you might be associated with. This was to some degree Jake's story, as individuals contemplated whether the diocesan could not have been totally blameless of the allegations evened out against him. The fury encompassing this fire escalated when not one yet two people, as of late, approached to uncover that they had individual disturbing encounters with the minister's child. This episode likewise ended up getting the evangelist's child in a position where individuals were bound to accept the new allegations made against him. The planning of these reports couldn't be more awful for him, regardless of whether he has been engaged with Addie. Shown no difficult issues in the past, you closely resemble the cleaner, very much like the CER. There's very improbable that you haven't known about TD Jakes, regardless of whether you comprehend the message he teaches, despite the fact that his congregation might have been the essential figure. Drawing consideration from the media, he has been there because of various other reports. A few things come as all the more a shock, as opposed to you might envision, like the fresh insight about his child, the child of FTJ, the Uber church minister in Dallas who has named homosexuality a brokenness and said he could never recruit a functioning gay individual, was captured in a gay sting in Keys Park some time back, as per a Dallas police record, following reports that he had uncovered himself before to cover bad habit. Examiner's Jermaine Donald Jake was accused of disgusting openness. The criminal investigators were the two men. A DPD representative at the time affirmed senior CPL Janice Crowther. The capture record Art expresses that while the police were investigating a resident objection of S action, they saw that Jake and a couple of other unidentified guys had left their vehicles in the parcel east of the recreation area. Jake moved toward the agents with his exposed body noticeable through his unfastened pants, and they followed him into a forested region. As per the testimony, Jake's M was made for a couple of moments as he was taking a gander at one of the investigators. The oath expresses that the notable minister's child put forth no attempt to conceal his battle from people running and walking around a neighboring path. As per court records, Jermaine Jake named TD Jake Services as his work environment, which given the conditions the vast majority saw as odd. Anyway, Jake was thusly arrested and delivered at the scene. For the people who don't realize, TD Jakes is the organizer behind the South Dallas Church Potter's Home, which has 300 to individuals. Conversely, the minister in this account is Major A. Rees of Strength for and of same-sex marriage. HIV/AIDS activists have even called him out for decreasing endeavors to stay away from the illness by demonizing drug use and homosexuality, but his child is displayed here being genuinely gotten without his genes on. In regards to same-sex marriage, Jakes recently expressed to USA Today, I have not yet found scriptural power that empowers me to proclaim you to be husband and spouse and wife. For God, the public authority is uncertain about how to continue with this issue. The good book isn't the next week. Confidence Johnson, Jermaine Jake's attorney, put out a composed announcement. The assertion read, we know about potential charges including Jermaine Jakes and are right now directing our own examination concerning these charges. We can't express further as of now because of an obvious government examination. The evangelist may before long need to confront such charges in court after one of his previous mentees, Manish Jordan, guaranteed in a new video that survivors of the supposed influence-based cleric are preparing to sue him. It's now questionable enough that his child was engaged with an uncommon embarrassment. Two of the wrongdoers were not just a casualty of Jiraz, what I depicted, yet of say consequently extra casualties have approached. And he has spoken with them, as per Manea Jordan, a previous devotee of Priest Television Jakes, who said that the notable Dallas minister prepared him. It's an obvious fact that, as we can find in the live flowed photograph, Manis Jordan undoubtedly once laid his head on diocesan TD Jake's shoulders. Diddy is seen laying his head on the dark Pope's shoulders. Manis seems to have at last figured out how to move away from the foe and is currently utilizing his situation to help more casualties. Mana Express discussed the new casualties that have approached against diocesan TD Jakes in a video that he posted on December. 32 different casualties who went through exactly the same thing as me. Just let me know today that it's a lot to discuss. In the video, Manis expressed 2 different casualties that went through exactly the same thing as me. Let me know today that there is a lot to talk about. Mana claims that cleric TD Jakes allegedly prepared and say 2 casualties with whom he talked. In one more fragment of the movie, Manasseh guaranteed that the 2 casualties he met with had talked about the G, which diocesan TD Jakes was probably liable for. As per him, the casualties additionally guaranteed that priest Jake had so them. Manasseh Jordan expressed that 2 of the culprits were not just survivors of G, as I have recently definite in a portion of my recordings, yet in addition of SA or S attack from a similar hunter who had prepared and disregarded me as a man. There will be charges brought against them from my preparing hunter, a similar one being bluntly against LGBT individuals, is one thing from the very that me anyway. I believe it's something else altogether for you to be caught in. Those very stories that you so valiantly go against, particularly in situations when there is an undeniable risk that it might bring about an extended legitimate debate. Many individuals were moved by Mana's video, and a considerable lot of them utilized virtual entertainment to examine his disclosure. About the minister, somebody remarked, I suppose on the off chance that he had spoken anymore, Mana would have begun sobbing uncontrollably. He was so close regardless of his cases. In actuality, I accept he was both of casualty or practically was miserable. I have by and by saw and encountered this, said one more, who was more distracted with the people who were remaining with the denounced aggressor. I got chills at his breakdown. We want to break the enchanted that enchants devotees to love the people as lords. Obviously, the full account has not yet surfaced, and in spite of the fact that you could censure these people for making these determinations without a trace of all the data, TD Jake hasn't precisely had an unblemished record preceding these latest allegations. The minister became engaged with a rapper quandary only half a month prior that, to understate the obvious, didn't loan him any greater validity. It's an obvious fact that online entertainment has formed into a unique field where individuals become notable, patterns come and go, and questions rule the discussion. A new example including rap hotshot P. Diddy and notable